The stars looked different in this part of space. Captain Jake Morrison stood on the bridge of the USS Retribution and watched them through the main screen. He had been traveling for 3 months to reach this place. His ship was huge and black, moving silently through the dark. "Captain, we are picking up signals," said Lisa Brown from her station. She was the ship's tactical officer, a woman with sharp eyes and steady hands. "The aliens are trying to talk to us." Jake nodded. This was what they had been waiting for. The Zephyrians lived in this star system. They were known across the galaxy as peaceful beings who helped other species. But Jake knew something they did not. His mission was not what it seemed. "Put it through," Jake said. The main screen changed. Now it showed an alien face. The creature had blue skin and large yellow eyes. It looked friendly, almost happy to see them. "Greetings, unknown vessel," the alien said in perfect English. "I am Ambassador Kethvar of the Zephyrian Collective. We welcome you to our system. We have been hoping to meet your species for many years." Jake stepped forward. He wore his best uniform, the one with all the medals. He had to look like a real diplomat, not a soldier. "Thank you, Ambassador," Jake said, with a smile. "I am Captain Jake Morrison of Earth. We come in peace, hoping to learn about your great civilization." The alien's eyes seemed to glow with joy. "Wonderful. We have prepared quarters for you on our main station. Please, come and be our guests. We have much to share with each other." Jake felt sick in his stomach, but he kept smiling. "We would be honored." After the transmission ended, Jake turned to his crew. Sam Davis, the chief engineer, was checking his equipment. Amy Clark, the communications officer, was recording everything. They all knew their real jobs. "Remember," Jake said quietly, "we are diplomats. We smile, we ask questions, and we learn everything we can about their defenses." "Yes, sir," they said together. The USS Retribution was not really a diplomatic ship. It looked peaceful from the outside, but hidden inside were the most powerful weapons Earth had ever built. The ship could destroy entire planets if needed. Jake hoped it would not come to that. 2 hours later, Jake and his team were on the Zephyrian station. The place was beautiful. The walls were made of some kind of crystal that gave off soft light. Plants grew everywhere, making the air smell sweet. Music played softly in the background. Ambassador Kethvar met them at the docking bay. He was taller than Jake had expected, maybe 7 feet tall. His blue skin had patterns on it like tattoos. He wore flowing robes that seemed to change color when he moved. "Welcome, friends from Earth," the ambassador said. "This is a great day for both our peoples." Jake shook the alien's hand. It felt warm and soft, not at all threatening. "Thank you for having us. Come, let me show you our home," Kethvar said. They walked through the station. Jake tried to look interested while his team did their real work. Lisa Brown was counting security cameras and guard posts. She saw very few. Sam Davis was looking at the power systems and structural supports. Amy Clark was studying their computer networks. The Zephyrians they met were all friendly. They smiled and waved at the humans. Children ran up to them, curious about these strange new beings. Their parents laughed and pulled them back, but not with fear. They seemed to trust the humans completely. "Your people seem very peaceful," Jake said to the ambassador. "We are," Kethvar replied proudly. "We stopped fighting wars over 500 years ago. We learned that violence only brings more violence. Now we help other species learn the same lesson." Jake nodded, but inside, he was thinking about Earth's burned colonies. Someone had attacked them with weapons that matched Zephyrian technology. Either these aliens were very good liars, or Earth's intelligence was wrong. They entered a large room filled with art and statues. In the center was a crystal structure that seemed to pulse with inner light. "This is our most sacred object," Kethvar explained. "It represents our promise to never use violence against other beings. Every species that joins our collective touches This crystalline makes the same promise. Beautiful, Jake said, though he was really studying the room's exits and defensive positions during their tours. Lieutenant Commander Ben Taylor joined them. He was Jake's second in command, a quiet man who was very good at asking the right questions. How do you defend yourselves? Ben asked casually. Space can be dangerous. We have some old patrol ships, Cathvar said, but mostly we depend on our reputation. When others see that we mean no harm, they leave us alone. It has worked for centuries. Jake and Ben exchanged a quick look. The Zephyrians really did seem defenseless. That evening, they attended a formal dinner. The leaders all came to meet the humans. They asked many questions about Earth and its people. Jake answered carefully, telling them about human culture and history, but nothing about their military strength. Your species sounds fascinating, said one of the Zephyrian Council members. We hope you will consider joining our collective. Together, we can explore the galaxy in peace. We would be honored to consider it, Jake lied. After dinner, Jake returned to his quarters on the station. He sent a coded message to the USS Retribution. First day complete. Gathering intelligence. Aliens appear peaceful, but may be hiding their true nature. Continue monitoring. Katie White, his cultural specialist, knocked on his door. She looked worried. Captain, I've been studying their behavior all day, she said. These people really do seem peaceful. Their body language, their reactions, everything suggests they're telling the truth. Maybe they're just good actors, Jake replied. Maybe, Katie said, but she did not sound convinced. Jake stared out the window at the stars. Somewhere out there, Earth's colonies lay in ruins. 50,000 people were dead. Someone had to pay for that. But looking at the Zephyrians and their trusting faces, Jake was starting to wonder if they had the right target. He pushed the doubt away. Earth's intelligence was good. The energy signatures matched. The Zephyrians had the technology to destroy colonies. If they were not the attackers, they were at least involved somehow. Tomorrow, he would learn more. He would ask harder questions, and look for cracks in their peaceful facade. If they were guilty, he would find the proof. If they were innocent, well, he would deal with that problem when it came. For now, he had a mission to complete. The safety of Earth depended on it, outside his window. The alien station hummed with peaceful activity. Children played in the corridors. Families shared meals together. Scientists worked on projects to help other species. None of them knew that death hung over their heads, hidden in a ship that looked like it came in peace. Jake closed his eyes and tried to sleep. Tomorrow would bring answers, one way or another. The next morning, Jake woke up to soft music coming from the station's speakers. The Zephyrians started each day with peaceful songs. It made him feel even worse about what he was doing. Ambassador Cathvar met him for breakfast. The food was strange, but tasted good. Plants and fruits that Jake had never seen before, but they were prepared with care. Did you sleep well? The ambassador asked. Very well, thank you, Jake said. Your station is quite comfortable. We are glad. Today, we thought you might like to see more of our civilization. We have prepared visits to our research centers, schools, and manufacturing facilities. Jake smiled. Perfect. Those were exactly the places he needed to see. The first stop was a research center. Scientists worked on projects to help other species. Jake saw teams working on better farming methods, new medicines, and ways to clean polluted planets. Dr. Katie White, his cultural specialist, asked many questions about their work. We share all our discoveries freely, explained Dr. Zenlek, the center's director. Knowledge belongs to everyone. While Katie talked with the scientists, Jake studied the facility. He noted the power systems, the computer networks, and the security measures. There were almost no guards. The Zephyrians seemed to trust everyone completely. Sam Davis, the chief engineer, was having the time of his life. The Zephyrians were showing him their fusion reactors and power distribution systems. They explained everything in detail, proud of their clean energy technology. "Your reactors are very efficient," Sam said, taking mental notes of every weakness he saw. "We had to develop them carefully," said the Zephyrian engineer. "Our old power systems almost destroyed our planet long ago. We learned from our mistakes." At the manufacturing center, Jake saw how the Zephyrians built their ships and equipment. The facilities were automated and efficient. But again, there were no weapons being made. Everything was for peaceful purposes: farming equipment, medical devices, and exploration tools. "Where do you build your military equipment?" Lieutenant Commander Ben Taylor asked casually. The Zephyrian guide looked confused. "Military equipment? We have some old patrol ships, but we built those centuries ago. We keep them running for emergencies, but we rarely use them." "What kind of emergencies?" Ben pressed. "Asteroid impacts, solar flares, rescuing ships in distress, that sort of thing." Jake was starting to get frustrated. Either the Zephyrians were incredible liars, or they really were as peaceful as they seemed. But Earth's intelligence was clear. Someone with their technology had attacked New Haven Colony in the afternoon. They visited a school. Children ran up to the humans, excited to meet beings from another world. They asked endless questions about Earth, about human families, about what it was like to live on a planet instead of space stations. "Are all humans as tall as you?" asked a small Zephyrian child. "Some are taller, some are shorter," Jake replied, trying to smile. "Do you have children?" asked another. Jake thought about his own daughter back on Earth. She was about the same age as these alien children. "Yes, I do." "What does she like to do?" "She likes to draw pictures and play with her friends." The children seemed delighted by this. They showed Jake their own drawings, pictures of stars and spaceships, and different alien species all playing together. Amy Clark, the communications officer, was working with the school's computer teacher. She was learning about their information systems while pretending to set up cultural exchange programs. "Your networks are very open," Amy observed. "Of course," the teacher replied. "We believe in sharing information freely. How else can we learn from each other?" Amy felt sick. These people were so trusting that they were giving her access to their most sensitive systems. She could map their entire communication network from here. That evening, there was another formal dinner. This time, Jake decided to ask more direct questions. "Ambassador," he said, "we've heard stories about attacks on remote colonies, pirates, and raiders using advanced technology. Have you had problems with such groups?" Kethvar's face grew serious. "Yes, we have heard these stories too. It is very sad. We have sent aid to some of the affected planets, but we cannot do much to stop the attacks." "What kind of aid?" Jake asked. "Medical supplies, food, equipment to help rebuild. We also share our defensive technology with species that ask for it." Jake's heart skipped. "You share your technology?" "Of course. We believe that all peaceful species should be able to defend themselves. We have given our shield generators and energy weapons to dozens of civilizations over the years." There it was. The Zephyrians had been giving their technology to other species. One of those species could have used it to attack Earth's colonies. But which one? "Can you tell us which species have received your technology?" Ben asked. "Certainly. We keep detailed records of all our gifts. Would you like to see them?" Jake could hardly believe it. They were going to hand over a complete list of every species with access to Zephyrian technology. This was intelligence beyond his wildest dreams. Later that night, Jake studied the list in his quarters. Hundreds of species had received Zephyrian technology over the centuries. Any one of them could have attacked New Haven Colony. But the energy signatures matched Zephyrian weapons exactly. Either the Zephyrians were lying about their peaceful nature, or someone was using their technology to frame them. Katie White came to his quarters again. She looked even more worried than before. "Captain, I've been analyzing everything we've learned," she said. "Their behavior is completely consistent with a peaceful species. Their art, their music, their child-rearing practices, their social structures, everything points to a civilization that has genuinely evolved beyond violence. But someone attacked our colonies," Jake said. "Yes, but it might not have been them. What if someone stole their technology? What if another species is using Zephyrian weapons to make us think they're the attackers?" Jake had been thinking the same thing, but his orders were clear. Earth's intelligence pointed to the as the threat. He had to gather enough information to neutralize that threat. "Keep analyzing," he told Katie, "but remember our mission." Meanwhile, on the USS Retribution, the crew was preparing for the next phase of their operation. The ship's hidden weapon systems were being checked and calibrated. Targeting computers were processing all the intelligence Jake's team had gathered. Chief Petty Officer Chris Jones was working on the target list. Power stations, communication hubs, manufacturing centers, all the places Jake had visited were now marked for destruction. "It seems wrong," said one of the junior officers. "These people seem genuinely peaceful." "Orders are orders," Chris replied. But he did not sound happy about it. Back on the station, Jake made his final preparations. Tomorrow, he would confront Ambassador Kethvar directly. He would describe the attack on New Haven Colony and watch the aliens' reaction. If Kethvar was guilty, Jake would see it in his face. If he was innocent, ... Jake tried not to think about that possibility. He sent another coded message to his ship: "Intelligence gathering complete, targets identified, preparing for final confirmation. Stand by for Phase 2. On the bridge of the USS Retribution, the message was received and understood. The crew began their final preparations. Weapons were charged. Targeting systems were activated. The ship that had come in peace was ready to bring death. Jake looked out his window at the peaceful alien station. Families were having dinner together. Children were doing homework. Scientists were working on projects to help other species. None of them knew that their lives might end tomorrow. For the first time since leaving Earth, Jake Morrison wondered if he was making the biggest mistake of his life. But 50,000 humans were dead, and someone had to pay for that, even if it was the wrong someone. He closed his eyes and tried to sleep, but the faces of the Zephyrian children kept appearing in his dreams. 3 months earlier, Jake Morrison had been a different man. He stood in Admiral Helen Carter's office on Earth, looking at pictures that would change his life forever. "New Haven Colony is gone," the Admiral said. Her voice was cold and hard. 50,000 people, men, women, children, all dead. The pictures showed burned buildings and melted metal. What had once been a thriving human settlement was now a field of ash and destruction. Jake stared at the images, feeling sick. "Who did this?" he asked. "That's what we need to find out," Admiral Carter replied. She pressed a button, and new images appeared on the screen. "These are energy signatures from the attack. Our scientists have analyzed them carefully." Jake studied the patterns of light and energy. They looked like nothing he had ever seen before. The weapons used in this attack match technology belonging to the Zephyrian Collective, the Admiral continued. Either they did this themselves, or they gave their weapons to someone who did. "The Zephyrians are supposed to be peaceful," Jake said. "That's what they want everyone to think. But peaceful species don't have weapons that can destroy entire colonies in minutes." Admiral Carter stood up and walked to the window. Outside, Earth's blue oceans sparkled in the sunlight. It was beautiful and peaceful, but Jake knew it could be destroyed just as easily as New Haven. "We can't let this happen to Earth," the Admiral said. "We need to know what the Zephyrians are planning. Are they testing our defenses? Are they preparing for a full invasion?" "What do you want me to do?" Jake asked. "Take the USS Retribution to their space. Pretend to be a diplomatic mission. Learn everything you can about their military capabilities. Find out if they're planning more attacks. Jake nodded. It made sense. If the Zephyrians were planning to attack more human colonies, Earth needed to know. And if they are planning more attacks, he asked. Admiral Carter's face grew even harder. Then you stop them, permanently. Now, 3 months later, Jake was back in the present. He sat in his quarters on the Zephyrian station, remembering that conversation. The Admiral's words echoed in his mind. Stop them, permanently. He looked at the intelligence his team had gathered. The Zephyrians had powerful technology, but they seemed to use it only for peaceful purposes. Their defenses were weak. Their military was almost non-existent. If they were planning to attack more human colonies, they were hiding it very well. Jake called a meeting with his senior staff. They gathered in a secure room on the station, using devices that would prevent the Zephyrians from listening in. What's your assessment? Jake asked. Dr. Katie White spoke first. Captain, I've studied their culture extensively. Everything about these people suggests they're genuinely peaceful. Their art, their literature, their social structures, it all points to a species that has evolved beyond violence. But someone attacked our colonies, said Lisa Brown, the tactical officer. The energy signatures match their weapons exactly. They've been giving their technology to other species for centuries, said Sam Davis. Maybe one of those species is the real attacker. Ben Taylor looked worried. Sir, what if we're wrong? What if the Zephyrians are innocent? Jake felt the weight of command pressing down on him. 50,000 humans were dead. Earth's colonies were in danger, but the Zephyrians seemed so peaceful, so trusting. Our orders are clear, he said finally. We gather intelligence and assess the threat. If the Zephyrians are planning more attacks, we stop them. And if they're not, Katie asked. Jake did not answer. Dr. Rick Green, the ship psychologist, had been quiet during the meeting. Now he spoke up. Captain, I've been watching our crew's reactions to the Zephyrians. Many of them are having doubts about this mission. They're starting to question whether we have the right target. Doubts don't change our orders, Jake replied. No, sir, but doubts can affect performance. If we do have to take action against the Zephyrians, I'm not sure all of our crew will be able to follow through. Jake nodded grimly. He was having the same doubts himself. After the meeting, Jake walked through the Zephyrian station. He watched the aliens going about their daily lives. Children played in the corridors. Families shared meals together. Artists worked on beautiful sculptures. Scientists researched ways to help other species. None of them looked like killers, but Jake had learned long ago that appearances could be deceiving. Some of the worst enemies he had faced had seemed friendly and harmless at first. The Zep might be very good at hiding their true nature. He found Ambassador Cathvar in the station's garden. The alien was tending to some exotic plants, his long fingers gentle as he pruned the leaves. Captain Morrison, Cathvar said with a smile. How are you enjoying your stay? Very much, Jake replied. Your people have been very kind. We are happy to share our home with you. Your species seems very interesting. We hope we can learn much from each other. Jake took a deep breath. It was time to ask the hard questions. Ambassador, I need to ask you about something serious, he said. 3 months ago, one of our colonies was attacked. The attackers used weapons that match your technology. Cathvar's face changed instantly. The friendly smile disappeared, replaced by shock and horror. What? That's impossible. We would never attack anyone. The energy signatures are identical to your weapons, Jake pressed. Either your people did this, or someone using your technology did. The alien's large eyes filled with something that looked like tears. Captain, I swear to you by our most sacred beliefs, the Zephyrian Collective has never attacked any human settlement. We would never harm innocent people. Jake watched the ambassador's face carefully. He had interrogated many prisoners over the years. He knew how to spot lies. But Kethvar's reaction seemed completely genuine. Then who did? Jake asked. I don't know, Kethvar replied, but we will help you find out. We have given our technology to many species over the centuries. Perhaps one of them has misused it. Show me, Jake said. Kethvar led him to the station's central computer. The alien called up detailed records of every species that had received Zephyrian technology. The list was enormous, hundreds of civilizations spanning thousands of years. Here, Kethvar said, pointing to recent entries. These are the species we have helped in the last few years. Any of them could have the technology to attack your colony. Jake studied the list. Most of the names were unfamiliar to him, but a few stood out. The Kithran Empire had received significant amounts of Zephyrian technology just 6 months ago. Tell me about the Kithrans, Jake said. Kithran's expression grew troubled. They are a warrior species. They came to us claiming they needed defensive technology to protect their borders. We gave them shield generators and energy weapons, hoping they would use them only for defense. Have you had contact with them since? No, they left immediately after receiving the technology. We assumed they were busy installing it on their ships. Jake felt a chill run down his spine. The Kithorans had received Zephyrian technology just 2 months before the attack on New Haven. But Earth's intelligence had focused on the Zephyrians themselves, not on the species they had helped. I need to contact my ship, Jake said. Of course. Use our communication system. We have nothing to hide. As Jake prepared to send a message to the USS Retribution, he realized the terrible truth. Earth's intelligence had been wrong. The Zephyrians were not the attackers. They were just another victim of species who had misused their trust. But his orders were clear. He was supposed to assess the Zephyrian threat and neutralize it if necessary. Admiral Carter had not given him permission to investigate other possibilities. On the USS Retribution, the crew was making final preparations. The ship's weapons were ready. The targeting systems were locked onto Zephyrian installations. All they needed was Jake's order to attack. Chief Petty Officer Chris Jones was having doubts. He had been monitoring the diplomatic meetings, and the Zephyrians seemed genuinely peaceful. But orders were orders, and 50,000 humans were dead, sir, said one of the junior officers. Are we really going to attack these people? They seem so, innocent. Innocent people don't have weapons that can destroy colonies, Chris replied. But even as he said it, he wondered if it was true. Back on the station, Jake made his decision. He would investigate the Kithran connection before taking any action against the Zephyrians. If the Kithrans were the real attackers, then humanity was about to make a terrible mistake. He sent a coded message to his ship, investigating new intelligence. Delay Phase 2 pending confirmation of target. But as he sent the message, Jake wondered if it would make any difference. The USS Retribution was a weapon pointed at the heart of Zephyrian space. If Earth's leaders decided the Zephyrians were a threat, nothing Jake learned would change their minds. The die was cast. Tomorrow would bring answers, but Jake feared they would come too late to prevent a tragedy. Jake woke up to alarms, screaming through the station. Red lights flashed in the corridors. The peaceful morning songs had been replaced by urgent warnings. All stations, battle alert, came a voice over the speakers. Unknown vessel has activated. Weapons, systems, all civilians to shelters, immediately. Jake ran to the window of his quarters. Outside, the USS Retribution hung in space like a dark angel of death. The ship's hull was opening, revealing weapons that had been hidden for weeks. Gun ports slid open, missile tubes extended. The peaceful diplomatic vessel had become a monster. No, Jake whispered. Not yet. He grabbed his communicator and tried to contact his ship. USS Retribution. This is Captain Morrison. What are you doing? I gave no order to attack. The response came from his first officer, Commander Dan Parker. Captain, we received new orders directly from Earth Command. Admiral Carter has ordered immediate action against the Zephyrian threat. I'm still gathering intelligence, Jake said. The Zephyrians may be innocent. I'm sorry, sir. Orders are orders. The attack is beginning now. Jake felt his world collapse. He had been too slow. While he was investigating the Kithrin connection, Earth had decided to act. The peaceful Zephyrians were about to pay the price for someone else's crimes. The first shots lit up space, like deadly fireworks. The USS Retribution's plasma cannons fired in sequence, targeting the Zephyrian defense platforms. The aliens' old patrol ships tried to respond, but their weapons were centuries out of date. They were destroyed in seconds. On the station, Ambassador Kethvar's voice came over the speakers. People of the collective, we are under attack by the humans. Take shelter immediately. Do not resist. Perhaps this is a misunderstanding that can be resolved. Even as death rained down on them, the Zephyrians hoped for peace. Jake ran through the station corridors, trying to reach the command center. Zephyrian families were huddling in shelters, their large eyes filled with terror and confusion. Children cried for their parents. The elderly moved slowly, helped by younger aliens who refused to leave them behind. Why are they attacking us? Asked a young Zephyrian scientist. We welcome them as friends. Jake had no answer. He pushed past the crowds and reached the command center. Ambassador Kethvar was there, trying to coordinate the evacuation of civilian areas. Captain Morrison, the alien said when he saw Jake, please, can you stop this? We have done nothing wrong. I'm trying, Jake said. He activated the emergency communicator, USS Retribution. This is Captain Morrison. I order you to cease fire immediately. I'm sorry, Captain, came Commander Parker's voice. Admiral Carter has relieved you of command. You are to return to the ship immediately for debriefing. Jake stared at the communicator in shock. Earth had not only ordered the attack, they had removed him from command to ensure he could not stop it. On the USS Retribution, the crew was carrying out their orders with military precision. Lisa Brown coordinated the targeting systems, marking civilian areas as off-limits, while focusing on infrastructure targets. But the Zephyrians had built their cities integrated with their technology. Destroying the power systems meant killing civilians. Direct hit on the main power station, reported the weapons officer. Civilian casualties estimated at 3,000. Lisa felt sick. 3,000 innocent people, dead because of her actions. But orders were orders, and Earth's security depended on stopping the Zephyrian threat. Sam Davis was monitoring the alien response. Sir, they're not fighting back. Their ships are trying to evacuate civilians, not attack us. Maybe it's a trick, said Commander Parker. Keep firing. But it was not a trick. The Zephyrians had no idea how to fight a war. Their peaceful nature was not an act. It was who they really were. Their ships were designed for rescue operations, not battle. Their weapons were meant for asteroid mining, not combat. The massacre continued for hours. The USS Retribution's weapons tore through the Zephyrian defenses like a knife through paper. Space stations exploded in brilliant flashes. Ships trying to evacuate civilians were destroyed by mistake, their debris scattered across the void. On the main station, Jake watched his team carry out their mission. Katie White was crying as she helped evacuate Zephyrian children. Amy Clark had shut down her communication systems, unable to participate in the attack. Only Ben Taylor was still following orders, though his face was pale and his hands shook. Captain, Ben said, Earth Command is asking for a status report. Jake took the communicator. This is Captain Morrison. The Zephyrians are not the enemy. They're innocent. We're making a terrible mistake. Negative, Captain, came Admiral Carter's voice. Our intelligence is solid. The Zephyrians have the technology to destroy our colonies. They must be stopped. They gave their technology to other species, Jake pleaded. The real attackers are probably the Kithrans. Let me investigate. The time for investigation is over, Captain. Complete your mission. The connection went dead. Jake realized that Earth had already decided. The Zephyrians would be destroyed, whether they were guilty or not. Dr. Rick Green found Jake in the command center. The psychologist looked shaken. Captain, several crew members are requesting immediate psychiatric evaluation. They can't handle what we're doing to these people. I know, Jake said. I can't handle it either. The worst moment came when the USS Retribution targeted the Zephyrian High Council chamber. The building was a work of art, a crystal structure that housed the leaders of 7 different species. Inside, the aliens were trying to coordinate humanitarian aid for their people. Target locked, reported the weapons officer. Fire, ordered Commander Parker. The antimatter torpedo struck the building dead center. The explosion was visible from across the star system. In seconds, hundreds of alien leaders were dead. The Zephyrian government had been decapitated. Ambassador Kethvar watched the destruction from the station. His large eyes were filled with tears. They were good people, he said to Jake. Council members who spent their lives helping others. They never harmed anyone. Jake felt something break inside him. These were not the actions of Earth's military. This was genocide, plain and simple. I have to stop this, he said. How? Kethvar asked. Your ship is too powerful. We have no weapons that can hurt it. Jake looked at the alien leader. Even after watching his people die, Kethvar was not asking for revenge. He was asking for the killing to stop. There might be a way, Jake said, but I need your help. Meanwhile, on the USS Retribution, the crew was completing their mission. The Zephyrian infrastructure was in ruins. Their government was destroyed. Their fleet was scattered. The aliens who had welcomed humanity with open arms were now running for their lives. Mission accomplished, reported Commander Parker. Zephyrian military capability has been neutralized. But as the crew looked at the destruction they had caused, many of them wondered if they had just won a battle or committed a war crime. The Zephyrians had never fired a shot in anger. They had died trying to save their families and friends. In the depths of space, a new signal appeared on the USS Retribution's sensors. It was a transmission from Earth, marked with the highest priority codes. USS Retribution. This is Admiral Carter. New intelligence has confirmed that the Zephyrians were not responsible for the attack on New Haven Colony. The real perpetrators were the Kithran Empire using stolen Zephyrian technology. Abort mission immediately. Commander Parker stared at the message in horror. They had just destroyed an innocent civilization based on false intelligence. Sir, asked the communications officer, what do we do now? Parker looked at the destruction surrounding them. Thousands of innocent aliens were dead. Their peaceful civilization was in ruins, and it was all based on a mistake. Send a message to Captain Morrison, he said quietly. Tell him, we're sorry. But sorry would not bring back the dead. Sorry would not rebuild the destroyed cities. Sorry would not restore the trust that had been shattered forever. The USS Retribution, the ship that had come in peace, had become exactly what its name suggested, an instrument of retribution. But the wrong people had paid the price. The silence after the battle was worse than the fighting. Jake stood in the ruins of the Zephyrian command center, surrounded by the destruction his people had caused. Broken crystal walls reflected the light of burning debris outside. The peaceful station had become a tomb. Admiral Carter's message played again on the emergency communicator. New intelligence confirms the Zephyrians were innocent. The real attackers were the Kithran Empire using stolen Zephyrian technology. Abort mission immediately. Too late. Hours too late. Ambassador Kethvar sat among the wreckage, his blue skin covered in dust and ash. His large eyes stared at nothing. Around him, the bodies of his people lay where they had fallen, trying to help others escape. How many? Jake asked quietly. 12,000 dead, Kethvar replied. His voice was empty, drained of all emotion, including 3,000 children. Jake felt the words hit him like physical blows. 12,000 innocent beings, dead because Earth had acted on false intelligence. 3,000 children who would never grow up, never play in the gardens, never ask questions about the stars. Ambassador, Jake began. You what? Kethvar turned to look at him. You're sorry? You didn't know. You were following orders. Jake had no answer. Every excuse sounded hollow in the face of such massive death. Katie White found them in the command center. The cultural specialist was covered in blood. Not her own, but from the Zephyrian civilians she had tried to save. Her hands shook as she spoke. Captain, the survivors are asking for you. They want to understand why this happened. Jake followed her to the main hall, where hundreds of Zephyrians had gathered. They were the lucky ones, those who had survived the attack. But they looked at Jake with eyes full of pain and confusion. We welcomed you as friends, said an elderly Zephyrian scientist. We shared our knowledge, our culture, our trust. Why did you kill our children? It was a mistake, Jake said. The words sounded pathetic even to him. We thought you had attacked our colonies. We were wrong. A mistake. The scientist's voice rose. 12,000 of my people are dead because of a mistake. A young Zephyrian mother pushed forward. She was carrying a small bundle, the body of her child, who had died when the power station exploded. Look at him, she said, holding out the small body. Look at what your mistake cost us. Jake forced himself to look. The child was maybe 5 years old, his blue skin now pale and lifeless. He had been holding a toy, a small spaceship that he had probably been playing with when the attack began. I'm sorry, Jake whispered. It was all he could say. Sorry doesn't bring back our children, the mother replied. Sorry doesn't rebuild our cities. Sorry doesn't restore our trust in the galaxy. Back on the USS Retribution, the crew was dealing with their own horror. The ship's medical bay was full of crew members who had suffered mental breakdowns. Dr. Rick Green was overwhelmed, trying to help them cope with what they had done. I can't sleep, said one of the weapons officers. Every time I close my eyes, I see those civilian transports exploding. I killed families who were trying to escape. We all did, said another crew member. We're all murderers now. Commander Parker stood on the bridge, staring at the tactical display. It showed the damage they had caused. Destroyed stations, dead ships, burning cities. The Zephyrian civilization had been set back centuries in a single day. Sir, said the communications officer, we're receiving a transmission from Captain Morrison. Jake's face appeared on the screen. He looked like he had aged 10 years in a single day. Commander, I'm ordering you to stand down all weapon systems. We're surrendering to the Zephyrians, sir. Parker looked confused. The Zephyrians have no military left. They can't accept our surrender. They're the wronged party, Jake replied. If they want justice, they deserve to have it. What about our orders from Earth? Jake's expression grew hard. Earth's orders led to genocide. I'm not following Earth's orders anymore. The transmission ended, leaving the crew to contemplate their captain's words. They had committed genocide based on false intelligence. Now they faced the consequences. On the station, Ambassador Kethvar was trying to organize rescue efforts. Despite everything that had happened, the Zephyrians were still trying to save lives, even human lives. The station's medical bay was treating wounded crew members from both sides. Why are you helping us? Jake asked one of the Zephyrian doctors. Because that's who we are, the doctor replied. We don't stop being healers just because someone hurts us. The doctor's words hit Jake harder than any accusation. Even after suffering massive losses, the Zephyrians were still trying to help their enemies. They were exactly what they had claimed to be, a peaceful species that had evolved beyond violence. Days passed. The survivors worked together to rescue people from the wreckage. Humans and Zephyrians labored side by side, trying to save what could be saved. But the damage was too great. Entire communities had been wiped out, families destroyed, a civilization wounded perhaps beyond healing. Jake spent his time helping with the rescue efforts. He pulled bodies from the rubble, both living and dead. He saw the faces of the people his actions had killed. Children, parents, grandparents, all innocent of any crime except trusting the wrong species. On the 5th day, Earth's fleet arrived. Admiral Carter herself came aboard a massive dreadnought, along with a fleet of support ships. They had come to assess the situation and probably to clean up the mess. Jake met the Admiral in the station's main docking bay. Around them, survivors watched silently. "Captain Morrison," Admiral Carter said, "you're under arrest for disobeying orders and surrendering to enemy forces." "The Zephyrians are not the enemy," Jake replied. "They never were. We killed innocent people based on false intelligence." "That's not your decision to make," the Admiral said. "You had orders to commit genocide." Admiral Carter's face grew cold. "Orders to protect humanity. The Zephyrians had the technology to destroy our colonies. They were a potential threat. They were a peaceful species that trusted us," Jake said. "We betrayed that trust and murdered their children." "You're relieved of command," Admiral Carter said. "Security, arrest him." But as the security officers moved forward, something unexpected happened. The Zephyrian survivors stepped between them and Jake. Ambassador Kethvar, despite his grief, spoke up. "This human has shown honor in the face of dishonor," the alien said. "He has worked to save our people and taken responsibility for his actions. If you want to arrest him, you'll have to go through us." Admiral Carter stared at the aliens in shock. "You're defending the man who attacked you." "We're defending the man who chose to do what was right," Kethvar replied. "Something your species seems to have forgotten." The standoff lasted for several minutes. Finally, Admiral Carter stepped back. "Fine," she said, "but this incident will be investigated. There will be consequences." "Good," Jake said. "There should be." In the weeks that followed, the galaxy learned about the massacre at the Zephyrian station. The story spread across space, carried by traders and travelers. Humanity's reputation was destroyed overnight. Species that had once been curious about humans now feared them. But something else happened too. The Zephyrians made a choice that shocked everyone. Instead of seeking revenge, they chose to work with humanity to find the real attackers. They shared their intelligence about the Kithran Empire and helped plan a joint mission to stop them. "Why?" Jake asked Ambassador Kethvar during one of their planning sessions. "Why help us after what we did to you?" The alien leader looked older now, worn down by grief and loss, but his eyes still held compassion. "Because revenge only creates more pain," he said. "We learned that lesson long ago. The Kithrans used our trust to turn us against each other. If we let hatred win, they succeed in their goal. You're better than we are," Jake said. "No," Keth replied. "We're just older. We've had more time to learn from our mistakes. Humanity is young. You can still choose a different path." The joint fleet that eventually set out for Kithran space was unlike anything the galaxy had ever seen. Human warships flew alongside rebuilt Zephyrian vessels. The USS Retribution, now renamed the USS Redemption, led the formation. Jake Morrison, court-martialed and stripped of his rank, served as an advisor to the new captain. He had insisted on being part of the mission, despite the risks to his career and freedom. As they traveled toward Kithran space, Jake often stood in the observation deck, looking at the mixed fleet around him. Human and Zephyrian crews worked together, sharing knowledge and building trust. "It's ironic," he said to Katie White, who had also volunteered for the mission. "We came to destroy them, and now we're working together to stop the real enemy. Maybe that's what humanity needs to learn," Katie replied. "That our greatest strength isn't in our weapons, but in our ability to admit when we're wrong and choose to do better." The mission to stop the Kithran Empire would be dangerous. Many would not return. But for the first time since the massacre, Jake felt hope. They had made terrible mistakes. They had killed innocent people and destroyed a peaceful civilization. But they had also learned something important, that true strength came from admitting fault and working to make things right. The USS Redemption flew toward the unknown, carrying a crew of humans and aliens united by tragedy but bound together by hope. They could not undo the past, but they could choose to build a better future. In the depths of space, the ship that had brought death was now carrying a different message, that even the darkest mistakes could be the beginning of redemption, if one had the courage to choose a different path. The galaxy would remember the massacre at the Zephyrian station, but it would also remember what came after, the choice to heal instead of hate, to build instead of destroy, to seek peace instead of revenge, and perhaps, in time, that would be humanity's true legacy among the stars.